Well, hello and welcome to Split Informed and Split Smart. I'm your host, Carl Roberts, and excited to be here for our show on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. The intention behind this show is to help everyone, amicable or hostile, to more easily reach positive, equitable, peaceful agreements in their divorce. The principle behind SplitSmart and this show is all about organization. Organization is the key to everything you want and need in the divorce process. It is the key to avoiding most drama, trauma, and expense. It's the key to protecting yourself and your family in the process. Everyone should know that the single difference between a good and happy divorce is simply the presence of a bad actor. Bad actors can be one or both man or woman, lawyer or litigant. We know that bad actors are typically good people who've just gotten tripped up by their emotions, bad advice from friends, family, or lawyers, and often personality disorders of being a narcissist or borderline, having a borderline personality disorder. So your chore from early on is to protect your family and yourself from the bad actor, regardless of who that bad actor may be. It may be yourself sometimes. So today our guest is Jennifer Warren Medwin, Certified Divorce Coach, Mediator, and author, coming to you from the great state of Florida. Good morning, Jen, and thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, and by the way, happy International Women's Day.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Carl. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm excited to have you here. I just, again, one of the things that I find gratitude or grateful for in this arena, you got to find those things, is again for being able to kind of work with, the like-minded people who are really trying to help others avoid the traumas that, many of us have experienced, because it is easily enough done when people kind of keep themselves in check. So, Jennifer, give us a little bit of background. Give us a little introduction.
So as you said, I'm a certified divorce coach. And in 2013, the American Bar Association defined divorce coaching as the fourth element of the divorce process. So I've been coaching for 7 years of the 9 years. And subsequent to that, I became a Supreme Court family mediator, as well as a certified marital mediator. And a lot of people don't know what marital mediation is. It's a relatively new form of mediation where couples whose marriages are in high conflict, yet they want to put divorce on the bookshelf. I usually work with a couple for about 6 months. We work on skills such as conflict management, such as what creates intimacy, who they are as their best selves, how do they communicate. And we work for about 6 months, and we come up with various agreements. And you don't waste time in marital mediation, because whatever we agree upon, if you decide that divorce is the answer, I can write up a memorandum of understanding and they can take it to their respective attorneys. And it's been successful. It's been very successful in helping a couple reconnect to their foundation.
So when did you start that particular part of your practice, and how many couples have you had kind of go through that?
I have had about 20 couples go through that. I had to think in my mind, about 20 couples. And I would say a quarter of them are working on their marriages where really, even though divorce was on the bookshelf, they were able to find their way back to each other. So I consider that a big success.
Oh, absolutely. That's fantastic. And then, the other 75% that continued on to divorce, hopefully
they do.
But they were able to kind of go through a more appropriate divorce path or a divorce journey, one that didn't scorch the earth.
Well, they went through a more amicable divorce, which is always one of my main objectives. So during the marital mediation work that we do, we learn about how to communicate. And one of the things that I really I teach my clients is something that Bill Eddy, who I absolutely love from the High Conflict Institute, he talks about ear statements, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of ear statements. But ear statements with high conflict is when you begin a conversation with empathy. So you're having an argument with someone and you want to let that person know that you hear them. So for example, an ear statement might be, I hear that you're really upset right now. Okay. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be heard and acknowledged. The A is attention. You want to give that person the feeling that they're being heard and that you are really trying to understand what they are saying, not to defend, because most people listen to defend and not to understand. And then to keep it going with respect. I know this is really upsetting for you. I hear whatever whatever it is that you might be saying, and really focusing on continuing the ear conversation, because when you do that, conflict comes down. So teaching my clients who are in marital mediation skills like that, if they decide to divorce, they have really honed in on those skills, and it helps them move through the process in a more productive and efficient way.
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. And yeah, I mean, again, it's just so much about just kind of keeping people. Yeah, I've said in one of Bill Eddy's courses, a month or two ago, but yeah, and I've been aware of him for a long time, but I haven't really gotten into his work that much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. And,
Yeah.
and just kind of like I said, I mean, most conflict abates when people feel heard.
That's
and
right.
and respected, and again, it doesn't mean that you're having to agree. It's just being, again, going through respect, treating people like you want to be treated.
Exactly. It's the reason why we were born with 2 ears and 2 eyes and only 1 mouth.
Yeah, and I use that from a salesperson perspective. I use that all the time, and you absolutely got back to that. That's great. So, and how long have you been doing that particular part?
I've been doing the marital mediation for about 2 years now. Yes.
That's fantastic. That's great success. Again, that 25% that stayed married, and then the 75% that just stayed away from that hostile, litigated approach. That's a huge win.
And you know what? You know why it's also a huge win? It's a great skill to have to move forward, because so many of us are living life on autopilot. We lack the awareness of what we want and what we need. And when you go through marital mediation, one of the skills that we work on, which has many tentacles, is who are you when you are your best self? Right? And so many of us don't stop to think about that. And so we lack the awareness of what fuels us. And really, happiness is an inside job. We outsource it. And yet it really grows from our inner whispers, from when we are true to ourselves. And so when we set the intention of focusing on who are we when we are our best selves and what are our objectives moving forward, it has a ripple effect on not only our entire being, but on those around us, and on our productivity and our efficiency and our ability to organize for our lives.
The one word that stood out in all that was just intentions. And I mean, it's so much about what we do. I mean, I know that I've kind of had my bout with it, is again, just kind of going through things without intention. And when you can bring, some of it's kind of connected to the whole mindfulness type conversation. But again, the more intention that you can have with something, then to me, that's the key to so much of people's individual challenges today.
Sure. And in order to have intention, you must have awareness. And something that I talk about in my book is the 3 A's of change, right? How do human beings create change? The first step is having the awareness, right? It could be from losing weight to figuring out what it is that makes you unhappy. So you develop this awareness. And then the second A is acceptance. Whatever the awareness is, can you accept your responsibility with it? And the third is action. Now that you have this awareness and you have this acceptance, how are you going to act on it? Right? So many of us live in this circle of our comfort zone. And yet, it's not in the comfort zone that we grow. It's only outside of the comfort zone. That's where change is. Three A's for. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, very good. And so, I mean, and the thing is, we are constantly changing through life, and the change is the only thing that's constant in our life is that we've got change in circumstances, jobs, relationships, personalities. It all promotes. I mean, it's all change is just one of the biggest parts of life, and so the 3 A's is a great grounding tool for. I mean, it could be a great grounding tool for most anybody. And
That's
again,
right.
putting those 3 A's in context for yourself.
True.
And so then I would add 3 A's of those 3 A's, the intentionality, add intentionality to that. And then, and then part of the awareness is the introspection of ourselves, and again, what is driving us. And that's just the other aspect of awareness that I like.
And the inner dialogue too. What is our inner dialogue? And that is something that we focus on in coaching and we focus on in marital mediation. Your inner dialogue has a tremendous impact on either empowering you or disempowering you. For example, many people will say, I'll try to get half of the financial affidavit done by the end of the week. Well, trying is a very disempowering word. What I encourage my clients to do is to replace the word try with commit. When you commit to doing something, you feel you're more elevated, you're more encouraged. It's less of a responsibility. And it's easy to do this exercise, not just to believe the words that I'm giving you, but to actually try it. If you stand in front of the mirror and you say to yourself, I'm going to try to finish half of the financial affidavit by the end of the week, you will feel your energy depleting. When you stand in front of the mirror and you say, I commit to doing half of it, half the financial affidavit by the end of the week, you will actually feel yourself moving forward, feeling yourself a little taller. And I encourage the listeners and the viewers to go and try that exercise and see.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, okay, I love that. Again, so even if you're not using the word commit, using I'll get it done or I'll do this, or, the action words that are a commitment to get things done. No, I just kind of was on your website and I went back away, but the TED, the empowerment dynamic that you've got there, the creator, challenger, coach. Give us a quick understanding of that. And first of all, so for our audience to know that Jen can be found at seekingempowerment.com. And again, I think it's a very helpful website, regardless of where you are in the country. And really, I really love what you promote, Jen. Tell us about TED.
Well, thank you so much for asking that question, because my entire practice is based on the empowerment dynamic. That's why my practice is called Seeking Empowerment, Clarity Through Partnership. So basically, the empowerment dynamic at its foundation is that human beings are always at choice. So whether the challenge is divorce, death, disease, bankruptcy, even happiness is a choice. And here's the choice. We are either victims or we are creators of any situation. Now, it's okay and normal to feel victimized by a situation. If the divorce is not something that you wanted, you feel You might feel like a victim. That is okay. We all go through periods of grief. It's not linear. It ebbs and flows. However, the choice to park ourselves in that victim mentality is a choice. And at some point, we encourage individuals to set the intention of starting to create what it is that they want out of life, right? To be in the isness, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, the isness of the moment, and start to think about what you want and how to bridge that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And that's all about creating. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And then creating on to challenger and coach.
So challenger and coach. So someone who is a challenger is really challenging your authority, challenging your thoughts. Whereas a coach, and it doesn't have to be a coach, by profession, it could be a clergy member, it could be a friend, it could be a teacher, someone who is partnering with you, who is encouraging you to move forward, who's asking you open-ended questions, not questions that have a yes and no answer, encouraging you to think, encouraging you to move through your process, not solving the issues for you, but brainstorming with you and helping you to make those, what I like to call, brave bites forward. I never use the word baby steps, because baby, again, is a disempowering word, because babies really don't have control over themselves, right? And we always, as adults, want to maintain our own power. We're the authority on our lives. We are the boss of the process. I always encourage my clients throughout the whole process of whether it's marital mediation, whether it's a coaching process, or whether it's divorce, they own their process. They are the boss and the creator of their process.
And so what was the phrase you used instead of baby steps?
Brave bites.
Brave bites.
And when you say brave bites, it really pushes you forward. It energizes you. Brave bites. Arianna Huffington talks about micro steps, little micro steps forward. And that is also an empowering way of looking at it. I like brave bites. Lady Gaga talks about brave bites.
All right. Well, very good. So, and I didn't quite hear it again, but the challenger part of your dynamic, we should be. I mean, we can be both creators and challengers, right?
You can be both creators and challengers. Yes, you can be any of those, but there is a difference between a coach and a challenger. Right? You want to try, you want to commit. See, even I have to catch myself. And that's because I have the awareness. You want to commit to not solving a problem for someone, helping them think about how to solve the problem as being a coach. Right? And you don't want to be consistently challenging them and making them feel small. You want to empower them to be more open and have an open mindset and not a fixed mindset. Challengers often have fixed mindsets, right? It's either black or white. It's either 0 or 100. We want to encourage, as coaches, our clients to think in shades of gray. I can give you an example. So just recently, I was with a client through mediation, and she really wanted her soon-to-be ex to pay 100% of college for their son. And the attorney was very adamant that she was not going to get it because after the age of 18, neither parent is responsible for paying for college. And she was getting very upset. I asked for a timeout. We went outside and I said, shades of gray. What could we do? I know you want 100%. What would happen if you asked for 80%? She said, I never thought about that, Because when we are so emotional and we're so overwhelmed, we tend to become position based that we don't see shades of gray. We don't think in shades of gray. And you know what? She ended up getting 80%. You know why? Because it goes back to sort of like the ear statement. The soon-to-be ex realized or felt like he was getting something. He wasn't going to have to pay 100%. She was also compromising or appeared to compromise. And so things started moving more, not necessarily in the absolute direction she wanted, nor he wanted, but they both gave a little bit. And I call that a success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jim, we need to take a quick break here real quick. This is Carl Roberts with Split Informed and SplitSmart with my guest, Jen Warren Medwin. We'll be right back.
Get divorced and become involved in the family court system, there are no winners. Everybody loses, especially the children. I know, because my custody battle lasted years, was completely unnecessary, and financially devastating. That experience inspired SplitSmart. SplitSmart is designed to empower both parents by giving them the structure they need to stay on course for a more peaceful and respectful co-parenting future. For less than amicable couples, our unique line item negotiation approach helps soften sometimes emotional stances into child-centered agreements that both parents can live with. Do you want your children to thrive and grow up with healthy, loving relationships with both parents? How much easier would it be if you could bypass the conflict and create a clear, supportive, and comprehensive co-parenting plan and schedule that's tailored specifically for your family? Can you imagine what it would be like if there were no arguments about money or child support? If any of this appeals to you, if you want to minimize the expense and drama of divorce, do yourself and your children a big favor and use SplitSmart to craft your co-parenting and support plans. And as an added benefit, even if you've done your best and still can't get all the way there, SplitSmart will have your information well organized, so a skilled mediator or family lawyer can efficiently help your family cross the finish line. Visit SplitSmart.com today to get started on creating a brighter and more joyous tomorrow for you and your kids.
All right, we're back with this Carl Roberts with my guest Jen Warren Medwin. That mouthful, and Jen. Again, this is I hadn't done enough investigation and really learned more about you and your book and everything else as besides our conversations and a couple of quick little looking at it, but just before we kind of got on here. But I really am very impressed with all this. I mean, so it's funny how some things just kind of speak to you. So this really is kind of speaking to me. And so let's back up just a little bit. So why did you write your book?
So, it's an interesting question. I have been writing for a number of years for different platforms, and I was becoming frustrated somewhat by the lack of information about divorce coaching in general. And because it's a relatively new field, it's understandable that there are not that many books out there about divorce coaching. And I decided to create this goal. It was on my vision board. It took me 2.5 years, and I wanted to create a resource for individuals that was informative and user-friendly. And I have to say, many years ago when I was going through my own divorce, the divorce books that I picked up, I found to be extremely intimidating. Not only were they very long, but they had so many legalese that I just did not understand. With the book that I've created, I intentionally used a vocabulary that is extremely easy and fluid. The book is not only a book, but it's also a workbook. There are a series of checklists. For example, for the parenting plan, there are so many different ideas, options for you to consider. I worked with many people in the industry who helped me gather a list for items you might want to include in the parenting plan. I've never seen such an exhaustive list in any book that I've ever seen. Same with a lot of the legal issues and the financial issues. There are a series of checklists and there are open-ended questions so that it gives you an opportunity to really think through some of the questions that I'm asking. I'm a firm believer, in this particular process, which is if you think it, you must set the intention of writing it and then set the intention of speaking it. So the book actually goes through those elements. Reading it, right, creates thinking, then writing, because when you write, your ideas become more fluid and more structured, and then you can speak it more clearly and more effectively.
I know in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, so just that process of writing it down starts to organize it in a better way so that you can communicate it better. And
right.
So writing is such a big part of it. And so very much so. So what are the 4 quadrants of divorce?
So the 4 quadrants of divorce, is how I separate the entire divorce process. So in one part, you have the organization part, which is why I really like what you've created in SplitSmart, because individuals separately and couples collectively must have some structure when they're going through this process. The more organized you are, the less mistakes you make, the more rational you tend to be, and the less stress you tend to be. And when you're less overwhelmed, you're able to make better decisions, right?
The more empowered you are.
Yes, and the more empowered you are, which is something that I know that you talk about. One of the benefits of being a SplitSmart customer is that it does create this structure for you. It does help you, empower you through the process. It does encourage that negotiation perspective and philosophy. And ultimately, SplitSmart tends to be less expensive, right? Because you've really organized for the process. And it's the same that I feel about divorce coaching, right? The more we can educate our clients prior and even in the beginning stages of the divorce process, the healthier, the less time it will take, the less money it will cost. And then ultimately, it can lead to a much more amicable resolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one point I want to just highlight with that again, you're going to get organized one way or another in this process. And if you're going down the litigious route and the very hostile route, the lawyer is ultimately going to get you organized, but he's going to charge you tens of thousands of dollars to get there. Where it just by taking those first steps, even in the early stages before you've even talked about it with the other, just getting your financials together, understanding what your marital situation or marital estate is, understanding what you want in a parenting plan and schedules, and how you're going to take care of the kids financially, kind of going forward. Again, just organizing all that stuff, getting it down written so we know where what we got, and so we can figure out what we want and how we're going to get there.
That's right. I mean, SplitSmart creates the foundation from which you understand the pieces of the puzzle, which I think is very important. The second quadrant is the emotional aspect of divorce. And it's really so imperative as a coach, we help our clients separate the emotional side from the business side of divorce. Because when we bring the emotional side into the business side, we tend to make a lot of mistakes. So I help my clients, and I work with strategies and tips to help them champion their own authenticity, to help with communication skills and conflict resolution skills and body language. And that really is the second half of my book. And the second half of my book, while dealing with emotions, are emotions that happen with any challenges we experience in life, not necessarily divorce. The third quadrant is the legal aspect, right? And there are a lot of tentacles to the legal aspect. And I help my clients prepare for mediation. I am not only a mediator, but I'm pre-mediation certified. So I can help them really focus on what their priorities are, how to be able to be effective negotiators, how we compromise, how to obtain all of their legal documents. Then there's the fourth quadrant, which is the financial aspect. And again, with the financial aspect, it's a lot of work on the client's part because it requires them getting a lot of different types of documents, which is again where SplitSmart comes in and helps you organize and put things together for the financial process. So those are the four quadrants.
And all of those are just tightly intertwined with one another. And
yes,
I would say the organization is the foundation to the rest of them. The more organized, the less emotional. The more organized, the less the legal and the financial side are going to cost you, or the less the legal side is going to cost you, and then the better off you'll be financially at the end of the day. So yeah, it's all very much a part of it.
And the more power you feel, right? Because when you have when you have all the documents and you feel that you are moving forward, it creates a sense of stability for yourself. And it allows you to relax a little bit so that you can think more clearly.
In these brave bites, again, that's it, and we talk about, daily habits. It's so hard to create daily habits for all of us, even in good things, in good things. And so how do people, what are the type of daily habits? And I don't know if you separate it from a kind of the spot they are within their divorce journey or not, but what are kind of the daily habits for people in the divorce process, maybe in the different stages of divorce?
So you said something which triggered me to think of something. No two divorces are the same. I like to compare them to snowflakes, right? No snowflake is the same. And so with coaching, we meet the client right where the client is. So while there may be habits to develop that have some similarities, everything is geared towards where that client is right now. And so I encourage, and one of the skills that I teach my clients is habit stacking. Are you familiar with habit stacking?
I'm not.
Okay, so I love habit stacking. It's not a framework that I've developed, but so habit stacking is when you have a desire to create a new habit and you stack it to something a habit that you already do. So for example, in the beginning stages of divorce, sometimes people are feeling like their self-esteem is really low. Okay. And I work with them on creating avenues to increase their sense of self-worth, their joy. So what is something that we do every morning? For example, many people brush their teeth. Now, I can't always depend on my 16-year-old son to brush his teeth, but I know most adults brush their teeth. Okay. So I encourage them to stack a habit that they want to develop to something they already do. So, like brushing your teeth. So in the morning, if we are trying to create a habit of setting an intention of positivity, self-worth, self-esteem increase for the day, we would stack it to brushing our teeth. So before, during, or after brushing our teeth, we might have an affirmation. Today, I am going to exercise for 20 minutes because I know that will make me feel better. Today, I am going to be more aware that I smile, because when I smile, I know that it helps internally elevate my soul. So we set the intention only for themselves, not for anybody else. And when you set the intention and you create that habit during a habit stacking technique, you do it for 21 days, I promise you, you will start to feel the effect. Likewise, you can do it at night, brushing your teeth. They say, I heard this professor from Harvard who worked on the Happiness Project for 12 years. They said, if you take 2 minutes during the day to think about things that you're grateful for, or write them down, it actually increases your happiness over a period of, I think they even said 30 days or 35 days. Okay. So what I say to my clients is, let's start small. Let's start with brave bites. Tell me 2 things you're grateful for that happened at the end of the day while you're brushing your teeth. And it doesn't have to be monumental. It could be something small as somebody smiled at me, or I got to work on time. Little things. We forget that we have to be our own best cheerleaders. Habit stacking is a wonderful technique.
And the piece of that is that the gratitude, kind of finding those things that you're grateful for. I mean, your health, sun shining, the birds flying, or whatever that may be for you, finding those things that you're grateful for and just kind of reciting them, out loud, or writing them down in a journal, whatever.
It's true. And that goes back to the awareness, right? And one thing I want to say to people, and this is very helpful to my clients, is there's one thing that we're born with that never changes until the day we die. And you know what that is?
Lay it on me.
It's your breath. And your breath is a tool that is always patiently waiting for you. It is always patiently waiting for you. And I encourage my clients to use their breath as the tool that it is. And it doesn't have to be that they're meditating for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I encourage them. There's a small technique. Again, it's not something that I've developed, but it's something I use and I find it so helpful. You take 1 slow, deep breath in, thinking about the scent of your favorite flower. You hold it, and then you blow it out as if you're blowing out the candles on your birthday cake. And if you even just take a minute to take those few deep breaths, my promise to you is that you will start to feel less anxious and less stressed, because you're being mindful, you are being present, and you are actually using the one tool that is always with you to help create some equilibrium.
And that's so great, because I know just in my days, sometimes, not always, but when I do get really stressed and really get a little anxious about, okay, got this whole list of things I got to be doing, just take a minute, close my eyes. I probably take more than one. I take a few breaths, and and just a deep intake and deep release is whether it's just a minute or two, is can be very meditative and very centering for me.
For sure. And practice makes better. So if you start with 1 deep breath and you set the intention of doing a couple more as the days progress, you will be aware that it makes you feel better.
Yeah. And, that's whether you put that onto a habit or just, trying to find that's a great piece to add in as a habit stacker.
That's right. It really is.
And finding something in personally for me, I would want that kind of in the middle of the day or in the middle of the afternoon, something to kind of refresh me. Okay.
That's right. And you can stack it too when you have your lunch break, before or after your lunch break, whatever habit you want to start incorporating into your daily life. You can do it then, learning to breathe, not learning to breathe, but learning to breathe. So to help yourself slow down, right? Because we tend to be human doers, right? And we are really human beings. And it's in that being, in that stillness, that we can recharge, right? Sort of like a cell phone, right? If what happens when you don't plug the cell phone in, what eventually happens?
Runs out of battery.
It runs out of battery, and so do human beings. And so habit stacking techniques where we can help ourselves recharge is invaluable.
Well, Jen, this is awesome. First, thank you for your book. I haven't gotten it, but I'm going to go get it now.
Here it is.
Okay. Well, let's go there. Tell everybody how to get it.
So you can find my book on Amazon, or you can find it on Barnes & Noble. And the title is Strategies and Tips from a Divorce Coach, a Roadmap to Move Forward.
Very good. And how do they find you?
They can find me. I have a website, seekingempowerment.com.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, Jen, so impressive, and I'm, just so blessed to have you as a guest today, and to call you as a friend. And I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of to chat with you and learn more about your work and try to spread this part of this word. I think what you're doing is truly amazing and truly helpful for so many people if they take a moment to just take a second and pay attention. So.
And I want to thank you for creating SplitSmart. You're creating a tool for so many individuals during a very stressful time of their life that can really help empower them as they move through the process.
Well, Jen, thank you for that. We're going to sign off with that. I am Carl Roberts. This has been Split Informed and SplitSmart with our guest, Jennifer Warren Medwin. And join us next 2 weeks from today on March 22nd. And our guest will be Erica England with Support Pay. Thank you, everybody. Split Informed and SplitSmart. Have a great day.